Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here today to examine another country of the world of Golarion. And I mean Golarion, because today we take a step outside of the inner sea region and take a look at the country of Goka. Earlier this year I examined some of the most trade-heavy countries of the planet, but left this one on the table for just a little bit, both so that I could diversify topics instead of just keeping going with the trade cities all in a row, and because it is May again. Time for me to do whatever I want for anniversary month. So, let's get started. Goka is built into a natural break in the impassable Wall of Heaven. While once a docile hamlet, offers of trade from the rest found this the only clear passage. Once it was found how perfect this little jut of land was, merchants and sellers from across Tian Xia fled to the coast, intent on setting up their own trade docks. Soon, the port turned into a small, bustling town. Even more so when an architect of Abadar, who was framed for embezzlement, fell in love with the town and spent the rest of his life transforming the mishmash of buildings into the unified city of Goka. Then came the fall of the Yixing Empire. Goka, with few options, supported the rising government of Shu, but the government was corrupt from beginning to end, and the fall of the nation sent the trade hub into a century of chaos. This only stopped when the rising Longru brought assassins into the palace under the excuse of peace talks, and made the city its puppet. Well, it became heavily taxed, most notably on tea, which caused the resentment of the area to grow stronger, though Longru went about executing people who might start a rebellion before it actually got that far. Regardless, self-rule was restored the moment Longru collapsed. Though, another note of the Longru period is that's also the time when the famed Ruby Phoenix tournament first took place, but I'm not going to be covering that as heavily as I'm going to be covering the city itself, even though the Ruby Phoenix tournament is a large part of its culture. The nation is built off of people of several different ancestries. Not only is it home to most of the common people of the Tian, but as a trade hub it also has a minority of people from Pudra and the inner sea region. Regardless, 80% are still human. You know how it is. The government is parliamentary, having two groups of 54 offices. One, the Foundation Stone, are permanent seats for permanent leadership titles, nobles, high priests, roles like that. The Ridge Board are elected for 5-year terms. From both of these, every 25 years, a leader is elected, referred to as Emperor, Empress, or Liege, who only has the power to break ties, but has great influence over the nation's politics and culture. However, here is also a place to find Oni. Like in our first side tangent, the part of the show where we dig deep, about 3 markets worth. This is our chance to talk about one of the Oni daimyos, the strongest among the Oni. Onmyuzu, the dance in flesh, takes the form of an ogre mage Oni, except her third eye is closed shut permanently with golden rings, and she is covered in tattoos. She is one who is interested in all things, we'll call it physical, and the human imagination fails to capture how far her twisted tastes can go. Her lair is a hidden underground complex far below the city of Goka, even below the undermarket and maybe even below the deep market. Don't have an exact location. And even the most curious are not ready for a stop by. So speaking on culture, Goka is known for several things. First, education is important. Public school is free for 6 years, before going into trade schools or universities. The most prestigious is the court of the Willow Branch, which only admits 99 people per year. In terms of arts, there are currently 3 people/groups of people, known as the 3 Friends of Winter, who can make or break any artist. Roles and entertainment for music, the Bamboo Walkway for fashion, and the group of critics known as the Plum Blossom Assembly. Finally, the national pastime of the country is gambling, from traditional casinos to betting on whether it rains. The matter is so important that a majority of the court cases in Goka's history are devoted to gambling-related matters. Now, let's lay out the town. First, to the very south is where the original settlements of Goka can be found. Old Town is the westmost, being the home of some of the oldest residents as well as the industrial center. It is also where one will find Shaelin's Comb, a cliff face dedicated to Shaelin, as well as the Gon Yon factory. Across the river is Ivory Port, the oldest port in the city, which is also home to the Five Pillars Academy where wizards learn martial arts, and the Tower of the Forgotten, most famous entrance to the Undermarket. Slightly more north, a small island in the Nephrite River holds the Red Lantern District, a pleasure district, the one slowly being flooded with water. Across the Nephrite, across the famed Balance Bridge, we have 3 more districts devoted to arts and culture. Tian Xia, the city center, and the Floating Lotus, which this is a part where the map we currently have really suffers, because it's hard to pick these districts apart. Though, to be fair, the description we currently have of them also doesn't differentiate much from them, so. Either way, this region is home to the Grand Bank of Abadar, the largest temple to Abadar anywhere, as well as the Parliamentary Hall and Gardens, which is home to the Parliament meetings. You will also find the surface's greatest market, the Never-Ending Market, and it's also home to the Lantern Lodge, which will be today's second side tangent. The Lantern Lodge was originally founded as an organization to protect the knowledge from across Tian from being lost. In 4711 AR, the leader of the lodge came to offer alliances with the Pathfinders, and for a few years the two worked together, the Lantern Lodge acting almost as a minor Pathfinder branch. However, the organization found itself backlined as opposed to other branches, and while a second lodge was built in Absalom, eventually the alliance fell apart. But though the two organizations remain on good terms, especially since the organization helped the Pathfinders field a team in the 4713 AR Ruby Phoenix tournament, and helped them win the famed Hiaojing Tapestry. In the short 10 years since, the organization has formed an alliance with the Order of the Kirin, and founded more branch lodges in the countries of Hurangat, Minkai, Zitang Ma, and even Nagarjara. But Goka will always be the organization's home. Continuing to map out the area, next we cross the Scaled River, and pass Hiaojing's own vault of the Golden Flame, to reach the twin hills of the Diamond Knoll and the Blue Stone. On the Diamond Knoll, one will find the Goka Palace, where 108 buildings are occupied by some of the most important members of the city, including, of course, the Emperor/Empress/Liege. On Bluestone, one will find the prestigious Goka Imperial University. And in between, the Empress Yin Theater, founded thousands of years ago, currently sits. This area is also home to the Cliffside Court, which contains the Drake Aviary, as well as the Tea House Revolution Memorial. Finally, out in the harbor, are various sights to see, Starting up north, with all the gambling resorts known as the Islands of Endless Fortune. Then we have the last district of the city, the Dragon's Head, another entertainment district which also includes the 7 Dragon Bridges, the river/waterfalls known as the Dragon's Eye, and the Guillotine Head and Stone Rock Formation, which may contain a secret tunnel to the Undermarket. Finally, we have the Dragontail Archipelago, which includes the city's famed statue to Shizuru and Tsukio, to greet all those who enter the harbor. Speaking of gods, this is also a chance to talk about Tian deities. We can have this be side tangent 3. Both Shizuru and Tsukio have full profiles, so let's save them for around the time the Lost Omens guide comes out. Today, let's instead look at a deity who is also worshipped in Goka. Lady Nanbyo. Lady Nanbyo is a deity who brings earthquakes, fire, plagues, and other calamities down on mortals, to the point where tsunamis and volcanic eruptions, left to other Tian deities, are often also blamed on her. She appears as one of Tian Xia ethnicity, but only on occasions. Like Shizuru, her true form is that of a dragon, fire-breathing and with a dozen legs. Considering it is Tian Xia, I assume fire-breathing means underworld dragon, but we have not had confirmation of the scale color just yet. Either way, she delights in seeing the suffering of others, with most of her worshippers working to appease her so she does not rain destruction on them. She is also known to have married many times, but her husbands have all died. Mysteriously, of course. And the talk on Goka is not complete without a look underground, it already having an impressive section of markets on the surface. However, if you want poisons or drugs or slaves, you can still find those on the surface, but heavily regulated. But if you want the black market and the thieves guild and the cults of various dark gods, that is where you do what you want when you go to the undermarket, which is just under the city's surface. And if you still cannot find what you're looking for, if the dark web is too tame for you, that is where you go deeper still, finding yourself in the Darklands and the location known as the Deep Market. Now as we end this, let's leave off with one last side tangent, another Goka-based organization, the Golden League. Originally a combination of Minkai trade houses and a thieves guild, which worked to control both above-ground markets as well as the underworld. That is, until they end up collapsing the country's economy and were exiled. Restarting in Goka, they now work through a more subtle means, bribery and assassination, in order to continue to rake in the rewards. Today the underworld is controlled by a number of different families, and the legendary enforcers known as Zun. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Now to see us take care of Tian Xia a piece at a time, seeing what countries we can take care of before we have the large Tian festival coming next year. Either way, next week we have a god video on the docket. Who will it be? I say as if I have not already made it obvious in the past. Either way, see you then.